Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. So a subscriber has reached out with a nice welding job to do. He runs a great field target facility nearby and he would like me to fabricate some bespoke target holders. Now this is a great opportunity to show you some of the tips and tricks that I employ when fabricating many of the same item. Now we've got 14 of these to build, let's get on with it. So as with every fabrication job, we start off at the bandsaw, cutting the stock down to length. Now, to speed things up, I'm cutting 2 pieces at once to save time. Notice I'm using the stop rod on the saw. This allows multiple cuts of the same length, meaning not having to measure every time. When using the stop rod, I use a small spacer. This means the cut pieces can just fall away. Sometimes at the end of the cut, they can bind up if a spacer is not used. When I'm cutting 2 pieces at the same time, I like to clamp them together at the back here. More about these little clamps later on the channel. Now no cuts are perfect, and with all the cuts done, a little trick I like to do is stand them all up and pull out the 2 longest pieces and the 2 shortest pieces out from the pack, and then pair them together. This reduces any possible error down the line. After cutting, we need to deburr all the ends and remove the mill scale from the steel, ready for TIG welding. Here we're using a 5-inch grinder with a 60 grit flat disc. Before we get to welding, it's best if all the holes are drilled prior. These holes need to be 10mm from the edge of the piece. So we've set the combination square to 10mm, clamped it to the workbench, and we've created a small jig in order to mark these pieces with a scribe. Next up, we're going to use an automatic punch to punch these holes ready for drilling. So we're at the drill press now. We're going to drill a pilot hole of 3mm first and a final hole diameter of 8.5mm. At the Build Pro table now, we have used the fixtures to create a simple right angle jig to tack weld these component pieces in place. We've got 28 of this particular component to make, so a jig is really handy. So, time to weld them out. We are not using any filler metal here, the steel is thick enough and we're not building a bridge. So we're choosing to just fusion weld these instead. We have now got another jig set up, this time to combine 2 of the L-shaped components we have just made. This involves welding in this crosspiece. Break to sharpen the tungsten electrode on the TIG welder. Last bit to weld in now, another cross piece on an angle to hold the target base in place. So we've chosen to use filler metal here because the steel is on an angle and the gap is opened up at the back. Well, that's all 14 of these things made. Let's take them down the local field target club and see what they think. So we are at the club now, and with just under 100 lanes with 2 targets per lane, this is a top-notch facility. Each target sits on one of the brackets we have just fabricated and is strapped to the tree, so as not to cause any damage to the tree, and is out of the long grass. The shooter first range finds the target, adjusts for elevation, focuses the optics on the target, checks for wind speed and direction, cocks the gun, loads the pellet and fires.
Field target, it's a great discipline. It's got custom air rifles, it's got long range targets, it's got the whole shooting match. If you're interested in field target, check out the description below, you'll see details in there. As always, like if you did, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next video.